Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of NFL Fantasy Matchup. Here we are on a Wednesday night recording. Look, with me traveling this week, a lot of times is these guys were nice
Oh
enough to
no!
jump on
Yeah,
Wednesday
Right
evenings
when
to
we
just we were
record.
said,
talking about it
So,
too.
welcome everyone.
yeah. Well, thanks, Tommy. You had a pause there. I think we were just talking about we were making fun of your hotspot, and then you had a pause.
Yeah. Hey, hopefully it'll hold up. But the good thing about the platform that we use, Riverside.fm, is as much as we may see freeze and all that stuff, when I do download it, it records from each one of us and sends me the files so that it combines all together.
Oh, nice.
That's
That is
great.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, the pickup waiver wire of the week was Tillman over in the Cleveland Browns. And Jed, it seems like you got both of them, or him in
Well,
two
I was
leagues.
gonna say in our 1K league, I got Tillman before he had the big day, so I
Yes.
like picked him up on I think Saturday
Yeah.
just to stash him because I remember I had told you guys I said I think Jameis win. I wish I had a bet on that game though. I
Yeah.
wasn't that
Yeah.
confident, but I told you guys I said Winston is not a bad quarterback. He throws interceptions, but he's going to get his yards, and who's going to catch that with Amari Cooper not there? And sure enough, it was Tillman. But I did not play Tillman, so I can't take as much credit. But I at least got him, so he's sitting
Well,
on my team.
I thought Jerry Judy was going to be the recipient of all of that, or David Njoku. And so for Tillman, then they were saying he was really highly touted out of Tennessee and got picked in the third round and all of that stuff. But they say he was pretty good. And so he,
Man, I'll
look,
say, yeah,
go
Deshaun
ahead.
Watson must be really bad if because if you look at all the players that are being picked off the waiver wire, where you got Njoku, you got Tillman, you got Judy,
Jerry Judy.
they're expected to do really well under Jameis Winston.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully we'll see. They're playing the Chargers this week, so we'll see if that can continue. But it was, I mean, again, if you guys remember, Winston was not bad back in his Tampa Bay days, right? And then,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he always the problem was just interceptions, but he always could really throw and get a lot of yards. So we'll see if that, if that stays.
Remember, he was known as the 30-30 guy, 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but I mean, no, I mean, look, they've got a good. I think they've got a decent offense, right? They got Nick Chubb coming in as running back with Jerome Ford as the backup, and Joku is a very good tight end, and you got two or three decent receivers right there for them as well too.
Yeah. Hey, have you guys been monitoring
it's
Nick Chubb?
it's
How,
kind.
how is he?
He didn't do that great this past weekend, and actually this week he's not projected to do a lot. So I was a little, but it could be just he's working his way back, right? I mean, it's a pretty big injury he's coming
Yeah,
back from, and so maybe we just need to give him a little bit of time. But he definitely wasn't at like top 10 production or anything like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Jed, right
What I was going to
before.
say earlier was
You know what, Jed? It looks like because of the lag, I might be a second off. So I will make sure that I accommodate you as we talk.
no problem. I missed that, but I was going to say the Indianapolis Colts is another good example where having Joe Flacco now as the starter, right? So just like Jameis Winston coming in, now you got Joe Flacco coming in, and now all of a sudden, do you have to think about the offensive skill players in Indianapolis in a different light? Like I think Jonathan Taylor, for example, I think
Josh
it's
Downs,
Josh
yeah,
Downs.
yeah, Pittman,
Josh
yeah,
Downs was sitting
yeah,
on a lot of people's
yeah.
waiver wires. He's probably going to be the number one receiver there. So you have to like reevaluate just because of the quarterback.
Yeah. Hey, Jed. So Jimmy and I, about half an hour before we all got on, made this one trade. I wanted you to evaluate this trade. So I actually wanted Tyrone Tracy is the one who gave me, and Keon Coleman, and I gave him Jaden Reed, Brian Robinson, and Tucker Kraft. What do you think of that trade?
Oh, that's interesting. Keon Coleman was, if not, it's between Keon Coleman and uh, the guy we were just talking about, the wide receiver out of
Josh
Cleveland.
Josh Downs, Cedric
No.
Tillman.
Josh Downs, yeah, Tillman. It was between him and Tillman that were the two number one waiver wire pickups this week. So I do think Keon Coleman is worth trying to get because what's happened is Amari Cooper has taken a lot of the number one cornerback pressure off, and so now Keon Coleman is getting all of the second
Hmm.
cornerbacks, and so he's just destroying them. But we'll see if that continues. But Brian Thompson, and I like Tucker Kraft. I think if you needed a tight end, Tucker Kraft has been a sneaky, sneaky play. So you're kind of getting a 2-for-1 there in a way. I don't know. That feels like an even trade, win-win both
Yeah.
ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jed, I will probably say I really like Tyrone Tracy. He has done so well for the New York Giants. And Keon Coleman, in the last couple weeks, 14 points in both games. And so suddenly now, well, Tucker Kraft, I actually have Sam Laporta. I actually have, who else do I have? I have Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson as my two tight ends. And so now this was the third tight end. And in terms of my running backs and my other teams, I have J.K. Dobbins, I have Najee Harris, I have Kareem Hunt, I have Josh Jacobs. And I said, you know what? I think I could spare Brian Robinson.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this. This is the time when you're getting ready for the playoffs, right? Whoever you pick up right now, you're planning for what the playoffs are going to look like. And a lot of times, like we keep saying, the players that you end up with are not necessarily the players that you start off with. So you're going with the hot hands. I'm giving up a Tyrone Tracy. I'm giving up a Keon Coleman with the thought that I think Brian Robinson will continue to score. I think Tucker Kraft is a good tight end. And I'm still going for the upside of the Jaden Reed.
Yeah. Now, Jim, do you regret the Jordan Mason for Puka Nakua trade that you and I made?
Yes, I do. But I needed Jordan Mason. The only problem here's the thing: if Jordan Mason for the last 3 weeks did well, I would have no regrets because then I would have said, okay, I needed him to help me win the last couple of weeks, right? But Jordan Mason at 1 point and he went out with injury. I lost to Tommy this week by 4 points, right? And
Ugh.
he maintained his first place. I needed to put a dent into his first place ranking, and I lost by 4 points. And I was so frustrated by that. But those are the things, right? Like Jordan Mason, all I needed him to do was to score 5 points. He was projected to score 10 points. I just needed 5 points from the guy.
Yeah. And honestly, Jed, a lot of times the guy who's been carrying me recently, Najee Harris, the very guy I was trying to trade him for anyone. But ever since Russell Wilson came, and Russell Wilson is not a starting quarterback, but ever since he came in, 18 points, 16.6 points, Najee Harris has been doing so well for me recently.
Yeah.
I was just looking at Jalen Warren, thinking about Najee Harris, thinking like, is this the time that you pick up a Warren, stash him, and see what happens in the second half? Because that Pittsburgh team has definitely been surprising, and they figured something out with Russell Wilson
Yeah.
because they're winning.
I'll tell you this, you're right, Jed. This is the second half. I mean, starting this week, we're entering the second half, right? And so a lot of players that maybe traditionally were on the bench during the first half, they're going to start being pertinent the second half. And so you want to start paying attention to those guys.
Yeah. Jim, talk to me about Deontay Johnson being traded to the Ravens.
I don't know. I mean, I think part of it is I'm not really sure. You got two really good offenses. I mean, you got two really good offensive players on that team, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. You got a Zay Flowers, you got a Mark Andrews, and the only thing that I ask is there too many people that you're going to have to feed on that offense? Because Rashad Bateman was actually doing pretty well as well too. I do think Deontay Johnson will be fine. I think actually he'll take over for what Rashad Bateman has been doing. And it's not exactly like Zay Flowers is like that number one. I mean, he is a number one receiver, but I think they're going to be 1 and 1A. So I think he'll be fine. He'll get his standard 10 to 15 points as well too.
Yeah. Jed, before I ask you about Stephon Diggs, Jim, on the Carolina side, would you rather have Leggett or Adam Thielen?
Right now I'll choose Leggett only because I think Adam Thielen will be okay, but he's always going to be injury prone, right? So I'd much rather go with Leggett. The only problem with Leggett is, I mean, some weeks he might do well, some weeks he's not. I mean, the person I'm paying attention, Jonathan Brooks, is actually coming back this week for the first time, and so I'm interested just to see, one, how well he's going to do, and two, I know Tommy has Hubbard in a number of those teams, and I need him to not do well.
I have Chuba Hubbard in way too many leagues. All right. I picked him off the waiver. I've been riding that man. and pretty soon he's going to start struggling. Yeah. Hey, Jed, Stefan Diggs, what does it say about Tank Dell? And with Stefan Diggs now gone, Nico Collins, he'll probably be a little bit before he comes back. What's your thought on Houston?
Man, I have Tank Dell on at least one team, and I have been so disappointed. The guy has not taken advantage of these injuries, and honestly, I'm benching him. I've been sitting him because he is not, and I don't know what is wrong with Houston. I feel like is it? I haven't been watching their games, so I don't know why the production is not there, but something is off. Tank Dell, if you drafted him, you definitely have not gotten any payback. You probably drafted him, at least in the maybe third round, fourth round, and he hasn't really been paying off. So I've been very disappointed, but I don't know what's wrong. I
But
don't know what's going on.
But here's the thing: is without Stephon Diggs, right? They're gonna have to rely on him. I mean, there's nobody. I'm trying to think. Xavier Hutchinson, Minchie. I don't think there's anybody else. I mean, they're gonna have to rely on the Tank Dell. Joe Mixon actually did pretty well this week, but CJ Stroud's gonna have to throw somebody. The
Well,
only
that's what I
thing
was wondering is did they go run? Like, did they just go heavy run and like that's why? But he has. I was just gonna pull up because I have him on my one team.
I
I
think it's
want
more
this.
Tank Dell than anybody else because when Nico Collins was in there, Nico Collins was fine. He was scoring
Oh
like
yeah,
almost like 20 points a game. So it's got to have to be something with Tank Dell.
yeah. Maybe he's hurt and like we just don't even know or something.
Yeah.
But I was just looking at his points. Yeah, you look at his fantasy points: 8, 2, 11, 7, 0, 13. I mean, nothing really impressive.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yep. John, let's stick with you, and I'll get Jimmy's thoughts. Bears versus Commanders. Thoughts?
It was a tough game. If you're talking to me, that was horrible. I was actually on with my oldest son, and so he heard me react to the catch, and I was just like, "Oh no, what a!" But you know what? I'll say this: one thing I was disappointed was, the coach afterwards. I felt like he really should have. He kind of threw the team a little bit under the bus, and I didn't like that. Like it was to me, it was there was poor execution. Like they should have boxed out that guy at the back who caught it for Washington, the Hail Mary, and like I don't know. I just didn't like the way the coach just kind of like I don't know. I thought he should have just taken the hit for it, but tough way to lose. But you know what? The Bears. Like I will say this, Caleb Williams did not look good for 3 quarters. He was being
Mm-mm.
shut out, but then in the fourth quarter, he came alive. We put us in the position to win, and like there haven't been many quarterbacks at Chicago that have been able to do that.
Yeah. What about yourself, Jim?
I was not in a good mood afterwards. I was in such a pissed off mood because I thought they were fine. I thought they were going to win this thing, right? 25 seconds to go. Do not let them try to get downfield. I think once they had that first reception, that 12-yard reception, then they got into Hail Mary range. But even then, I think that Stevenson got blasted. Stevenson got blasted.
Rightly so.
Right?
Rightly
So
so.
I do think that they should suspend him at least like a quarter or something because I think that was ridiculous what they were going to do. So, okay, go. Yeah.
Jim, speaking of that, Anthony Richardson, then. He was tired and sat out of play, and now he's been benched for Joe Flacco for the remainder of the season. What are your thoughts on the future of Anthony Richardson? Is that the end of Anthony Richardson as we know it?
I don't think it's the end of Anthony Richardson. I am surprised that they ended up benching him. Remember, Anthony Richardson was touted as potentially one of the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks going into this
Yes.
year, right? He was up there with the Josh Allens of the world, the Lamar Jacksons of the world, and so he's really struggled. And I don't know what it is that's happening this year, but he's really struggled as well too.
Yeah. But, Jed, I think a lot of times the problem is when you have one of the captains of the team, your offensive lineman, who is your center, coming out and says, yeah, that's not the attitude of our team. Usually with the offensive player and offensive line, they're sticking to their quarterback. And for those guys to say, yeah, that's just not how we play it, you know that guy's in trouble. And so, like Jimmy said, maybe he'll get another chance. But if Joe Flacco continues, Joe Flacco does really well. We saw that in Cleveland. We're seeing that over in Indianapolis. The offense works better under Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean
and we
that's got
talked
to be
about this.
one of the Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier too, right? Josh Downs, Pittman is going to do better. All of those offensive players are going to respond better. And so, fantasy wise, whether it's Indianapolis or Cleveland, you want to play those players because you know under Winston and Joe Flacco, they're going to get their points. They're going to do what they need to do. And for some reason, they were not able to do it under the other two quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Richardson, along with Christian McCaffrey, like these have been the biggest disappointments, for the fantasy, for the first half of the fantasy year. I mean, Anthony Richardson, like you said, most people probably spent a decent high pick on him. We were expecting the
Yeah.
Colts offensive players to all be good. They have not been. They have not paid out, and it's just a surprise. Really a surprise.
Yeah. Hey, Jet, let me ask you a quick question. As we go back to tight ends, National Tight End Day was this past week.
Yeah.
Everyone did so well. Travis Kelsey, 10 catches, 90 yards, one touchdown. Mark Andrews, are they back to elite status as tight ends?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Mark Andrews, that was I mean, I dropped him. I think Jimmy picked him up in one of our leagues and I had dropped him. So, I mean, Andrews definitely, I think you can pick him back up, but I would just be cautious because the Ravens offense has really changed because of Derrick Henry. It's very run centric. They are using Mark Andrews really as a blocker, not really as a downfield threat. And so, but still, he's worth it. You got to be at the tight end position has been tough this year. But yeah, we had great production across several of the times. We talked about Kraft. He's been having a decent, comeback. We talked about Bruce Bowers earlier. Bowers has been phenomenal. We've talked about Trey McBride even has been a decent like pickup there. So yeah, it was a nice. Even George Kittle, has had some like good outings. So it was a nice comeback for the tight ends this past weekend.
Yeah. Jed, a lot of times, especially in Tampa Bay, with all the wide receivers,
Oh yeah,
Mike Evans, Godwin, Cade Otton, 81 yards, two touchdowns. He
two
has become the
touchdowns.
go-to receiver in that offense.
Yeah, exactly. We got to see, if that can continue. I think they have a pretty tough. What was their matchup this coming week? Kansas City.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, they
playing
got
Monday
a
Night Football
tough
this week.
matchup.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a tough one. So I'm actually benching Baker Mayfield in a couple leagues because I think it's just a tough matchup for him.
Yeah. Uh, Jim, any other thoughts as we look at, and I'll start looking at the next week, but any other thoughts as we wrap up this particular week?
No, I mean, tight end wise, George Kittle is doing really well, right? And so people were getting George Kittle towards the end of the middle rounds, early later rounds, and so I think he's a good pickup this year. I mean, people were really banking on the Sam Laportas of the world. They were looking at Mark Andrews, and so a Travis Kelsey. They finally started doing well, but George Kittle's doing well. Brock Bowers is doing well. I do think that George Kittle will continue to do good this year. So. McMillan was a disappointment for me. I actually was picking him up in all of the waiver wires for Tampa Bay, but like Bucky, who is that? Bucky Irving, Rashad White. I mean, they've been relying on their running backs to do a lot of things along with their tight end. So I don't know if you're going to get the numbers from the wide receivers from Tampa Bay like you did when what do you call it? Godwin and also Mike Evans was in there as well too.
Yeah. Hey, Jed, this week, Thursday night football game tomorrow, Houston Texans, New York Jets. We just talked about Stephon Diggs and everything like that, but New York Jets, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson seems to be really benefiting from the presence of a Devontae Adams.
Yeah, but I mean, the Jets have to be. We just talked about disappointments and stuff, but they've got to be way up there as one of the major disappointments. I mean, yes, Garrett Wilson has. We talked about not giving up on him, a little bit of a comeback, but still, overall, you got to be really disappointed with the Jets. I cannot believe what are they up? They've got 2 wins, I think, on the year, so that is a tough one. They're wow. You know what? They're no way. They're 2 point favorites. Oh, it's because it's in New York. So Houston, New York are 2 point favorites. Man, I would take Houston in that all day.
Jed, that's because Aaron Rodgers is struggling with darkness. Yep. He has to go back to that dark cave that he was in this past offseason.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it works. They need all the help they can get. I mean, I think if they don't win this weekend, Man, the New York media, I'm sure already
Yeah.
are having a heyday on him, but it's going to be even worse.
For a DraftKings bet though, if I were to put some player props, I'm going to put player props on Joe Mixon. I'm going to put player props on Brees Hall. I don't trust the receivers enough to think that they're going to get. They might have some good yardage, but I don't trust that they're going to score a touchdown.
Yeah, I actually think Garrett Wilson will probably. He's been getting a lot of different hits. I would go with Garrett Wilson as one of my prop bets. Joe Mixon, I think they will automatically just struggle in general a lot of times with no wide receivers. They're going to load up the box, and Joe Mixon has never done well when you just load up the box. He has just never done well.
So would you guys play? Would you guys play Tank Dell this week?
No, I'm benching him. I have him and I've benched him.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless I'm really desperate, I am not playing Tank Dell. I'm just now.
Mm.
The only one who's their tight end. I would
Dalton
probably
Schultz?
Dalton
yes.
Schultz, yeah.
I may actually put something on Dalton Schultz as for him to
Yeah.
get a touchdown.
My only thing is, I mean, he's the only guy catching
Yeah.
often. I mean, there's nobody else. Maybe Hutchinson might be the next one, right? So you would think they've got to throw it to somebody. But my question that I have to decide is, do I want to play? I got Cedric, I got Tillman, and I got Downs in one of my leagues sitting on the bench. Do I replace a Tank Dow with one of those two?
I
Oh
would.
yeah,
I would.
I do Tillman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tillman's playing the Chargers. So, I mean, I think there's a really good chance he's going to have a lot of points there. And even Indianapolis is playing Minnesota, which
Yeah.
I'm expecting Minnesota to win, but Indianapolis is going to be having to throw a lot to come back. So that could play in Josh Downs' favor. And-
Yeah. Jed, if you were to look at a parlay, what is one parlay that you would look at and you say, man, I would seriously look at that particular individual or team or something like that? What would you look at?
That's a good question. I have not been reviewing the matchups. I think it's because it's Wednesday. So I haven't, but you're talking about like three different teams. I'm just looking over the who are the gimmies here. You've got
Like, for
Denver
instance-
going into.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, like for instance, if I was to look at New Orleans and Carolina Panthers, I think Alvin Kamara will run all day over the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good one. We know the problems with Carolina. I was looking at this Denver against Baltimore, so that's the biggest spread. Baltimore is a 9.5 point favorite. They just got beat though, by Cleveland. So you're thinking that they should be a little more careful. But still, Denver has been able to put up some points. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a tough one. Even Chicago, Arizona, I don't like this game for Chicago. I'm worried. Although it looks like the bettors are favoring Chicago because Arizona's a 1.5 point favorite. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, here we go. Jacksonville at Philadelphia. Philly is a 7. Okay, that's some. I'd put some money on the running back there. Saquon Barkley. Yeah, Saquon Barkley, I think should have a good. That's a good chance for a TD there, and maybe Brown as well.
Yeah. Well, Jalen Hurts has actually been doing pretty good as well too. So I actually put some money down on the fact that he is going to throw at least one, maybe two touchdowns in that game.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I also
Jaguars
like
is-
Minnesota.
Yeah, Jaguars. I don't know what's going to happen with those guys, right? Like, because if you're looking at it, Thomas most likely will be out. Their rookie receiver. Kirk is out. So you got Parker Washington as the number one wide receiver. Most likely, I mean, if you're looking at yardage, Evan Ingram is most likely going to get his yardage. Tank Bigsby and also Travis Etienne is going to be limited this week, and so I think it'll be iffy as to whether or not you're going to put much on either of them. But I do think that Eagles will do well against the Jaguars.
As we're watching this, breaking news: Bronny James got his first 2 points in NBA game.
I heard that in the game that he went in with his dad, that at the end of the game, I don't know who it was who said it to him, but apparently some opponent said to Bronny James, "You don't need to shower he can just go straight home because
Yeah,
he only played 3 minutes. And I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like, that's
yeah,
pretty funny.
yeah.
That's
The
pretty
other
good.
the other thing I the other thing I laughed at. Did you guys see that statue of Dwayne Wade?
Oh yes.
Right? Like I kept looking at it. I was like, that is not Dwayne Wade.
How do people get paid for that? Like, isn't it a requirement for a sculptor that you need to be able to make it look like the
No,
guy?
but okay. So he's a Chicago sculptor, and they actually did. I was watching some videos where he was showing other things he sculpted, and it looks really good. So I don't know what he did with this Dwayne Wade thing.
Yeah. Except in his defense, if you look at a there was another picture of a very close up of it. It looks better than when you do it far away. So that's it. So just Google more of a close up picture of it. I thought it looked a lot better once you did a close up of it. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but
it
it's
looked like
still
more. When I looked at him, it looked like Lawrence Fishburne. That was who I was thinking. It just looked like Lawrence Fishburne.
yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, a
can I
couple of
can I run
props.
through?
Let me ask you. Can I run through one prop for you
Yeah,
guys?
totally. Yeah.
If you were Denver Broncos against the Baltimore Ravens, Denver actually has a very good defense. Would you put anything bets for Derrick Henry to score a touchdown or get over 100 yards against a very good Denver defense?
I still would. I mean, I think he's got to have a bounce back game because he didn't get his 100 yards last game, right? So against the Browns, so I expect him to have a better game. I still would put money on that.
Yeah. Jim, can I do one more?
Yeah.
All right. Cincinnati Bengals, Las Vegas Raiders. Here's another one I would do. Jamar Chase, I think, will get another touchdown and get over
Yeah,
100 yards against the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah,
That's a
I can see
safe
yeah,
that.
one.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Colts Vikings. I think, like you said, I think it's going to be a shootout. So I expect some good yardage coming from the quarterbacks as well as also the receivers. I think you're going to get some good numbers coming from Josh Downs and then also Michael Pittman. I don't know about Jonathan Taylor. He's been injured the last few weeks, but I think that's a good group to pay attention to. Rams and Seahawks. We don't know what's going on with DK Metcalf, but I think Rams is hitting a good stride right now. Kyron Williams is a good play. Puka Nakua is a good play. Cooper Cup is going to be a good play. Seahawks, I thought Tyler Lockett was actually going to do well last week, but I don't know. Maybe Noah Fant is the person I would really look at in playing if I needed a tight end for those. But those are two games that I'm taking a look at, as well as also Cowboys and Falcons. Falcons. I think that there's gonna. I actually think you can expect 1 to 2 touchdowns from Bijan Robinson this week.
Oh, yeah. Against a soft Dallas Cowboys defense, I would totally.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times you're going to get a bounce back game. Kyle Pitts, National Tight End Day, 2 touchdowns, probably won't happen anytime soon. Go with Drake London. I really think there's a bounce back game. Darnell Mooney keeps taking all of his touchdowns. You need to go with Drake London. I love, 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 love Drake London.
Yeah, I think he's a good play this week.
Yeah. Uh, Jed, what about yourself? Any other games that you want to look at as we're finishing up as well too?
No, I mean I think you guys hit. I again just looking at the over unders. I do like that Dallas Atlanta game. That's the highest over under for the week at 51.5. So basically, Vegas is saying you're expecting a big shootout. Same with the Los Angeles Seattle game. Um, Kansas City is a 9 point favorite. I think I might take Tampa Bay there. I think Kansas City will win. I just
Yeah.
don't know that they would cover the 9 points. So that's
You know what? I don't know. It is a Monday night football game, and the
yeah,
Chiefs tend
true.
to do well during Monday night football. And I can see this being one of those games where they're going to go perfect. They're going to do well, and I just don't see Tampa Bay being able to keep up with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jed, let me ask you a quick question. Miami Dolphins, Buffalo Bills. Buffalo's slated to win by 6 points. What do you think with a very good looking Miami offense there?
Yeah, with Tua back, I mean, in the second week of them playing together, you're right. But that's a division game. So remember, division games like usually are a lot closer. It's so that
Yeah.
6 points is a decent spread though. I don't mind putting money on Miami
Mhm.
there and seeing if they can keep it
Yeah.
close.
Jim, you've been complaining a lot that you've been losing in fantasy basketball in your DraftKings by a little bit here and there. Which ones have you been losing to?
Okay, so I put money on the fact that they can score like 29.5 points, like 30 points, right? So you have to do at least 29.5. I think in the last couple of days, I keep getting close to like if I have to win at 29.5, they'll be at 29 or 28.5, right? I've had 4 games. So today I was like, I'm going to quit for a little bit because now I'm just trying to win these things. I was like, I'm going to take a little break and I'm going to come back later on. But I've been so frustrated with basketball with it as well too. I should really start looking at double doubles and triple doubles, but it's been frustrating me. So I decided to take a break from it.
Good for you. You got to take a break sometimes. You can't
Yeah.
you can't chase losses. Like you can't try to chase stuff. When you see yourself doing that, it's like okay, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I've actually been betting baseball a little bit. I was just checking out the score. I'm surprised the Yankees have jumped back on them. They're up 5-0 now. If anyone's
Oh, the
watching,
Yankees? I was thinking the Dodgers would end up winning today. Because
I thought the Dodgers would
yeah, I thought they
finish it
would win
off, but
today.
if the Yankees win, it's going to be 3-2,
Yeah,
and then it's
yeah.
a little bit more pressure. But I've been winning off of playing the Dodgers, and like Freddie Freeman, I had a bet on him to hit his consecutive
Seven,
6 home run
seven.
yesterday.
Oh,
So
you got it. So you got it.
yeah, I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun. So I haven't played a lot of baseball this year, but this is the day I've been doing it.
Yeah. And Jim, a lot of times in basketball, now I'm in Texas, so I can't really bet this week, and I'm in California, so I can't do the football games. But double doubles, Andre Drummond has really helped me out with a lot of double doubles. I find you can never go wrong, Jokic. He is always so good. And Shea Alexander always gets me points all the time. So he's been very
Where do
good in
you where do
terms.
you find the double doubles on the? Where do you find the double doubles on?
If you go, sometimes they don't have it. So with some games, you're able to click on the double doubles.
Oh, okay, okay.
There's also what they call total points. So
Yes, I
it's
like that too.
rebounds, assists, and points
Yeah.
all added together.
Yeah.
That
Hmm.
one is very good for Shea Gilgeous Alexander
Yes.
and for Nokic because then
Yes.
basically you're covered even if he doesn't have a big point game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a Chris Paul will never get a lot of points, but he'll always get assists. So sometimes I'll look at the matchup and I say, oh, Chris Paul will always be able to get it. Victor
Yeah.
Wembanyama is very, very inconsistent. But you also know Gobert, always a double double. He'll always just get you a double double every single time. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
tend to play it safe all the time.
This time next week when we talk again, it'll be past election day, and so we'll figure out
Oh,
who ends up winning thing.
hey,
Robin
we should
Hood,
put some bets. Let's put some
Robin
bets on.
Robin Hood, it's the platform I use for my crypto. They had futures bets on Trump versus Kamala,
There you
and I put a
go.
futures bet. I put a futures bet on.
Who'd you put it on?
I put on Trump.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's been coming back. I don't
yeah, I
know.
put
We'll
it on
see.
Trump. I mean, not to say I'm voting for Trump, but in terms of betting, I put it on Trump because
You guys
Yeah.
know who I voted for this year?
yeah.
I voted for Mark Cuban. I wrote him in.
Oh,
So I always do that when I don't like the two candidates. I write in, and so I wrote in Mark Cuban for
yeah,
president this
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
I
this,
mean,
Trump. I mean, from a political perspective, all Trump always gets himself in trouble. He doesn't need to say anything, and what happens? He does a New York rally, and you got a bunch of stupid comments that came out of it.
Uh,
See, this is how he always hurts himself. Like that guy can't help himself.
yeah. And I will probably say I mean, we will never be able to express our candidates and what we feel about politically. But did you see and Tucker Carlson talking about Trump and spanking kids, and then everyone chanting, and he compared Trump as a daddy spanking bad kids, and everyone kept cheering, "We love daddy, we love daddy." I said, "What in the world is that?"
I didn't see that, but I'll look it up. That's
Oh
crazy.
my, yes. Look up Tucker Carlson. We love daddy. All right. And you're just sitting there. What in the world are these guys doing here? All right. Anything else football, basketball, anything like that we're going to talk about? Yeah. Jim, are you going to the Arizona
No,
Cardinals
good
game?
luck.
No, I was, but I'm busy on Sunday, so I decided not to go.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right, sounds
Yeah,
good.
good to see everyone.
I think